Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch Show, we're going to talk about voter ID, fraud hearings, January 6 vigils, can't even say it with a straight face, and buying Greenland, not to mention taking over a Russian tanker. We've got a lot to discuss today. It's going to be a great show. I need you to hit the share button because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. It is a beautiful day here in Florida. I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. Starting off real quick before we get into the nitty-gritty details, and we got a great show for you today. There is a hearing going on right now in Washington, D.C. to cover the fraud in Minnesota. We're going to discuss that in the show, but periodically I'm going to be looking up at the TV. So if you see me looking up this way, I'm looking at what's going on in the television. With that said, I also want to ask you, please, if you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube where we're live, hit the share button. If you're on Team DML, thank you so much for being a member. If you want to join Team DML, you can do so for as little as $20 for the entire year. You get all of our content. Just go to teamdml.com. Also want to say thank you to everybody for going to Apple Podcasts and to Spotify Podcasts, going to the Dennis Michael Lynch Show, hitting the subscribe button, and then leaving us a 5-star review. Because you're doing that, we see our numbers go up. Not kidding. The last 2 days since I asked you to start doing it, we've seen our play count go up by about 5%. So the more that you can do that, if you haven't done it already, please, it takes you a couple of seconds. I don't ask you for much. I just ask you, please, to go do that. If you could do that for me, just search for Dennis Michael Lynch where on your Apple Podcasts, or if you use Spotify, do it that way. Just go and hit the subscribe button, and it's a great thing for us. We appreciate it in a big way. I'm going to start off the program here looking back at last night because it's so crazy and insane. In fact, the Democrats are what I believe is the very unique mix of demonic and mental insanity combined together for something that there's no word yet other than liberalism. I'm not kidding. If there was a label that you put on their mental illness, it would be, powered by the devil. Last night, Ryan's going to play the B-roll for you right now. You get to see the visual. Democrats gathered together to hold a candle vigil in memory of the January 6th event that they allowed to happen, that Nancy Pelosi allowed to happen. Now, if you don't remember how Nancy Pelosi allowed it to happen, she does. She won't admit it anymore. She's denied it. But when she had a frickin' mask on her face being filmed in the back of an SUV, she took responsibility for it. Even though we show her this video, she still says this was an insurrection by crazy MAGA people. Trump did this, worst day in American history. Let's remind you of what Nancy said when she had swallowed a little bit of truth serum. Play the video, Ryan.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
There's not a question of how they had. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
There you go. When you got her, go to this camera. When you've got her on camera, being as honest as I've ever seen Nancy be honest. It's like this rare opportunity to look at her when she's being herself. And she's the one who carried it out. Now, more importantly than the prayer vigil, let's ask ourselves a very important question. And anybody here in the comments that could remember a time, I'll apologize if you could remember a time and I don't. Do you ever remember there being a massive Democrat gathering of all the heads and leaders there in the Capitol, Senate, House members. Do you remember them ever gathering together, lighting candles for a victim of illegal aliens that they allowed into the country? Joe Biden allowed more illegal aliens into this country than any other president before him, and the combination of presidents before him. What about the little 12-year-old girl, Jocelyn, from out of Texas? She was grabbed by 2 Venezuelan illegal aliens, tied up, gagged, beaten, raped, left to die in a small stream or a moat. Did you ever see a prayer vigil held for a little 12-year-old girl? I didn't. What about Kate Steinle? Right out of Nancy Pelosi's backyard, San Francisco. That's where she represents. Kate Steinle having an afternoon down on the piers in San Francisco, shot to death by an illegal alien that had been deported 7 times. There was no candle vigil. In fact, many times they won't even say the victims' names. But when it comes to January 6th, these Democrats, even though they're the ones who caused it to happen, they will sit here and hold a candle vigil. It's propaganda. It's disgusting. It is demonic, and it is mentally insane. Think about what has to go through your mind that you don't say to the Democrats that are there telling you, here, take this fake candle. I mean, think about, I know what I would say. I'd say, are you kidding me? You want me to hold a candle for January 6th? How long ago is that? And by the way, this is ridiculous. But they don't do that. See, it's a cult. It's a devil cult. And the devil has grabbed these people's minds, and something is very seriously wrong. These are the most dangerous people, not only in the United States, but around the world. They're more dangerous than Putin. They're more dangerous than Xi Jinping. They're more dangerous in many facts than ISIS, because the Democrats hold power in many different states, which we're going to talk about with voter ID in a couple minutes from now. And so the demons and the mental insanity that control these people are controlling many states. And sadly, and I'm not joking around, this is a mental illness. And until we can figure out where it stems from, we're going to continue to be fighting this, because they are our villains. We must remember this. You must remember this come the midterms. I understand not everything that Trump promised is coming to fruition as fast as we would like it to be, because we're an impatient society. I've said it a gazillion times. You go get your latte at Starbucks, you go get your Happy Meal at McDonald's. God forbid it's 30 seconds past what it is that you expected it to be. You get all pissy. You know, we want things yesterday. Well, they're coming. A lot of things that Trump has been working on and promised coming. He said it himself. He admitted, hey, I thought it would be easier to get Putin and, Ukraine to sort of end this war. It's more difficult than I thought. All right. Hey, listen, you know what that does? That humanizes him. He's not perfect. None of us are perfect. He doesn't walk on water, and he puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like you and I do. And when he cuts, he bleeds. But the man is doing as much as he possibly can. And think about how much resistance he gets from these crazy Democrats, the most evil people on planet Earth. Hands down, no question at all. Moving on here today, like I said, there is a huge fraud hearing in Washington, D.C., led by James Comer from Kentucky, Republican out of Kentucky. And what we've got to hope is that this is just not another one of those hearings where everybody winds up getting their opportunity to scream at a Democrat that's sitting on the dais at the table, and they use it for the sake of their X clippings. In fact, just a little tiny story to the side. Americans are extremely pissed off about what is happening in Minnesota and around the country. I'll give you an example of this. So each morning I go out for my morning walk. And this morning I'm walking, And I see a gentleman that I had never seen before walking his dog, and it was a service dog. It was a beautiful dog, and he had an FDNY sweatshirt on. It was the fire department, obviously. And so I have relatives who are in the fire department, and they're very well known because they sit towards the top, or at least some of them did. They're retired now in some cases. And I said, "Hey, bud," I said, I love your dog, by the way, and you FD?" And he says, "Retired." I said, "Great, I'd never seen you around here before." He said, "No, you know what? We just rented a place for the winter." I said, "All right, cool." He says to me, "Are you Dennis Michael Lynch?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "Hey, nice to meet you." He goes, "I see your stuff in my feeds all the time. I don't know how I see your feeds all the time." He goes, "But I look at your stuff." He goes, "I'm not really into the politics stuff. I got rid of it. It gets me upset. I never read any of it. My wife as well. We stay away from it." He says, "But I got to tell you one thing that's really pissing me off." And I said, "Okay." And just the way he was talking, I can tell that he and his wife are probably either independent or maybe a little left of center. And again, he's from New York. And he said, what Walls did in Minnesota, what's he doing in Minnesota? I'm pissed off about that, man. I paid into that. They're stealing our money. And so here's a guy who is non-political, right? Voicing that despite the fact that he's cut himself out of the process of listening to the news and getting involved, he couldn't ignore this. And so I'm hoping this isn't just going to be another one of those hearings where everybody yells at each other for the sake of having some good clips to play on X to use for fundraising in their next election. We need some people to be indicted and arrested on the government level. Because this guy says, "Hey, I want to see some people pay a price." He said that to me. "I want to see some people go to jail." And I think that is the sentiment from everybody. It's frustrating to see these people do things and not have to pay a price. Now, I know that everybody's target, the laser, not only just from Trump, but a lot of podcasters like myself, the laser is on Walls and Ilhan Omar. And I talked yesterday at length, I'm not going to repeat myself, about how Ilhan Omar and her husband leave very little doubt in my mind. And when I say little, it's zero doubt in my mind that they will be found to be in the center of a lot of this stuff. Yeah, it all equals out. And we just need some forensic people to go in there and make these discoveries once and for all, and let's indict these people. There is a great meme. I don't play memes and AI memes on here, but before I get into the serious stuff on this fraud stuff, which we're going to look at A.G. Ellison out of Minnesota in a second, but look at this meme that's going wild on the internet. It is cut from it's cut from a movie. You'll know which movie it is, the Titanic. This has Tim Walz. For people only listening to the podcast, imagine Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar. The Titanic has gone down, and they're floating in the icy water themselves, about to disappear. Take a listen and take a watch of this. It's hysterical. Go.
This happened because I helped your people commit fraud.
Sorry, Tim. You cannot run for governor again.
They're coming for you and your husband next. Husband, brother, brother, husband, whatever the fuck.
Retard!
So that is the entertaining part of the program today. Now we're going to go into the heavy stuff. So come back to this camera, Ryan, because I'm going to read off my book here. Mr. Ellison, Keith Ellison, out of Minnesota, is a Muslim, and he swore in on a Quran, which means that he is full-blown taqiyya. Taqiyya, as I've explained to you numerous times before, is sort of that permission slip for Muslim people to lie, cheat, steal, do whatever they've got to do to advance jihad. So you can never take that out, In the same way that I ask for forgiveness every day because it's part of my faith, these people practice tekiah because it's part of theirs. If you erase that part, then you undermine the fraud, because the fraud is not only a measure of greed, but it is a measure of religion for these Islamics. And Ellison is an Islamic. So Keith Ellison was recorded in 2021. It was a secret recording. He met with Somalis, and these Somalis were tied to the Feeding Our Future scam. That was the food scam. All right, and that's, remember I told you yesterday, these scams have been going on for a long time. They just really haven't been so in the spotlight until Nick Shirley shined a camera on it. But in this meeting that took place, the Somalis were trying to claim that this was all about racial profiling, that agencies, state agencies, not federal agencies, not Trump, 2021, state agencies are claiming fraud's going on, and the Somalis are saying this is all based on the fact that we're Muslim and dark-skinned from Somalia. And they go to Ellison, and Ellison agrees with them. He sympathizes with them. And in the recordings, he basically says, I'm going to help you. I'm going to pressure these agencies into resuming payments back to you. So as if that isn't problematic in itself, he doesn't say, hey, listen, we've got to kill the fraud. I got to look into this. I'm the chief police officer, if you will, in this state. He doesn't say, I've got to ensure the fact that there's no fraud going on. He says, I'm going to ensure the fact that you get your money spigot turned back on. Now, here's the crazy part. Shortly after that meeting, people who were tied to the Feeding Our Future scam wind up donating money to his campaign, and his son was also running for some office as well. And the estimates are that the joint money that they received, now remember, you could only receive up to about $2,500 per person when you're doing an individual donation. So these people, these feed the hungry people, the scam that never happened, the food never delivered, these people had enough money to donate $2,500 a pop. The estimated that they know about, and I'm telling you, if they investigate this deeper, the number is going to grow crazy. But it's into the tens of thousands that he wound up taking. Now, later on, when these people are actually bagged, when they're indicted, that's when Ellison gives back the money. But make no mistake, this guy is also another person who's part of it. And the Democrats in Minnesota, who I believe are all part of it, I think this can be the biggest dragnet, political dragnet in our nation's history if the Republicans decide to find a spine and really go after it. Here is a Republican lawmaker in the state of Minnesota. This is a state representative, Republican, trying to pass through rules that will allow them to investigate and get deep into what happened with Ellison during that meeting. Listen to the resistance. This is a 2.5-minute clip. It's worth your time because it shows how the Democrats are trying to cover this over. Listen to the resistance this man gets even just trying to get a sentence out. Play the video.
Released audio recordings reveal conversations that happened between the Attorney General and individuals who were later implicated and in some cases convicted in the Feeding Our Future scandal. In those recordings, the Attorney General...
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
State your point of order.
Masons 124, paragraph 1, in debate, members must confine remarks to questions before the body and avoid personalities. The debate here is not any individual. It is the policy and the amendment.
Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General was asked in those recordings to use his authority to protect businesses under investigation for wrongdoing, and rather than distance himself or remain neutral to allow the legal process to unfold, he responded in those recordings, of course, I'm here to help.
Mr. Speaker, point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, there was a point of order, and I didn't hear a ruling or any resolution of the point of order. Was there a resolution to it?
I'll remind the body that there was no ruling made by the Speaker as to the point of order that was just stated. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Attorney General in those recordings even urged the individuals, let's go fight these people. He was offered campaign contributions during that meeting, contributions that he later accepted. The release of those audio recordings raises questions about what's going on in the Attorney General's office that go directly to the need to pass the legislation that we had previously debated, House File 20. Although he has insisted that nothing came of the meeting, his office blocks disclosure of closed investigative
State your point
data.
of order.
Since 124.
The A11 will help ensure that what happens behind closed doors in the Attorney General's office sees the light of day. We can protect people's privacy while shining a light on what the Attorney General's office is doing, who is influencing that office, whether it's those under criminal investigation, nonprofits, corporations, or billionaires with political agendas, because Minnesotans have a right to know when their Attorney General's office is working with them. Minnesotans have a right to know whether the Attorney General is telling the truth that nothing came of that meeting. That's why the A11 is so important.
Yeah, it's very important. In fact, while we're having the show right now, I'm just looking up on the board here, and we see that the opening statements in the fraud case in Washington, D.C., it's called Minnesota Part 1. We will definitely be covering this for you all day long on the DML News app and on the Team DML app. We'll also be doing it all day on Facebook and Instagram and X. And then, of course, tomorrow morning we'll have some good clips for you. But we'll do it so this way you don't have to. But let's be very clear on something here. The Democrats cannot win unless they cheat and steal. It's very simple. And this is one of the reasons why the Democrats do not want voter ID. Voter ID should be the most simple, basic thing we all agree on, right? It should be. Unless, of course, you're trying to steal something. Now, you could look at fraud from many different measures. You could look at fraud and say, hey, it happens in our welfare system all the time. Hey, it's happening in the Somali communities all the time. Hey, it's happening in the immigration process, as I've explained to you a gazillion times. In fact, yesterday, it was funny. I was on a podcast yesterday for the Heritage Foundation Daily Signal. And I was telling the guy, very intelligent guy, the host of the show there, his name's Tony, about how it is that the whole immigration process for Somalis happens. It goes through Kenya. And the reason why it goes through Kenya is because it's so corrupt in Somalia. They're ranked number 179 out of 180 countries in terms of corruption that we have to go to Kenya. And that's not any better because they're ranked 121. The guy was blown away. Most people don't know this. So fraud is going all across the country. But make no mistake. The greatest fraud of all is voter fraud. Not having ID presented is fraud on a massive scale. And the Democrats carry it out all the time. In the same way that we all know, and the Democrats know, that Maduro was an illegitimate president, that Maduro was a horrible person who had to be moved out of that position. Because remember, before Trump did it, the Democrats wanted it. Joe Biden's the one who put the bounty on his head for what was, I think it was $25 million to grab him. And now all of a sudden Trump gets him, and now all of a sudden it's not a bad thing anymore. But if you take the Democrats at their word, going back when Biden was in office and even when Trump was talking about Venezuela, they wanted Maduro gone. They admit that there was shady dealings going on in Venezuela with the elections. Sidney Powell knows this. I played this for you earlier in the week. In fact, yesterday I interviewed General Michael Flynn. We're going to play that interview later in the week. He said it as well. Dennis, make no mistake. Part of why we're in Venezuela is to uncover the 2020 fraud. So voter fraud's a huge thing. And yet Trump can't get the GOP to do what needs to be done. Okay? The Save America Act, the SAVE Act, has been on Thune's desk for 6-7 months. Here is Trump yesterday addressing the GOP, basically begging them, please, guys, we need to address voter ID. Here you go.
You ought to have voter ID. You ought to insist on it. You ought to insist on it. Can you imagine? In California, they not only don't have voter ID, but if an official at the voting booths, which they don't have, by the way, because it's all mail, if an official, a voting official, even asks somebody for voter ID, sir, would like to see your identification. Do you come from our country? They put him in jail for tampering with the election. Okay? We got to straighten this out before it gets too crazy. California is more corrupt than any place. California is more corrupt than Minnesota.
Yeah, California is very corrupt, and we're going to get to that right now. But, you know, one of the other things about going into Venezuela that's great is, and I called for this in one of my short videos, is that the Trump administration has a prime opportunity right now to get rid of the hordes of illegal aliens we have right now in this country from Venezuela. In fact, I got Trump here on the big board, and it is a tweet that I put out. Just want to give you some information on this. Venezuelans are being told to go home voluntarily or they will be deported. These are illegal Venezuelans. They are told to go home or they will be deported now that Maduro is jailed. A temporary protected status in 2023 gave 350,000 illegal Venezuelans, 350,000, half the state of Vermont, gave them legal status, but Trump ended that in April. And then there was another TPS in 2021 given by Biden for 270,000. So we've given pretty much over we've almost given the entire state of Vermont. Imagine every person in Vermont being a legal alien just from Venezuela. Trump ended that in November, and now Trump also has all Venezuelan asylum applications have been paused as of December. This is what we voted for. So not only are we going into Venezuela and doing what needs to be done when it comes to drugs, when it comes to oil, when it comes to national security, and again, I go to General Michael Flynn. Wait until you hear this interview. The man is so smart. He addresses it from a general standpoint. He explains all the reasons why this Venezuelan action is so important to the United States. So, and here's another egg. It is going to help us get rid of the illegal aliens in this country. But going back to the Democrats and California, California, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, these people need illegal aliens in order to have their representation in Congress, right? Because the census counts everybody, it just doesn't count the citizens. It goes for non-citizens as well. So that's why they want to load up. They want to load all these people up so this way they get their seats, and then of course they wound up getting their elections paid for by illegal aliens, if you think about it. Illegal aliens are putting them in there. Now, California people, if you rip out the illegal aliens, which dominate the state of California, and you just go to the normal people in California, notwithstanding some of the freaks you'll see in San Francisco and some of the really high liberal places around there, but they now have a petition going to where they're trying to get the voter ID laws into place. So this way it's on the ballot for 2026 where the people can vote on that provision, whether they want it or don't want it. Here is a gentleman explaining how well that petition is going. Go. This is the video of the guy with the petitions. Yes, this is the video right before Newsom. We didn't play it. It's the man who shows that they've gotten 1 million signatures.
Mayo here, chairman of Reform California, with some amazing news to share. We have just crossed 1 million signatures on the California Voter ID Initiative. And here in our campaign headquarters in San Diego County, California, we are processing the 1 million signatures, but we're not done yet. We need an insurance policy. We're not content with just getting 1 million signatures. We need another 200,000 signatures just to make sure California Democrat politicians don't try to keep us off the ballot by disqualifying some signatures. So I need your help. In the next 4 weeks until February 1st, we need another 200,000 signatures to add to the million we already have. Collect more signatures on the California Voter ID Initiative and send them in by mail. Go to voteridinitiative.com, download the petition, sign it, and send it back in.
Now think about what that gentleman just says right there. It's because Elon Musk was pushing for people to sign this petition to get this on the ballot. This guy says, hey, we got 1 million signatures, and that's what you needed. You need 1 million signatures, but he's saying it's not enough. He needs people to still come in and sign up. Why is that? Because what the Democrat-led California legislature will do is they will say these signatures are not valid. Is it amazing? The same people who won't push for voter ID, it's no big deal, take people on their word that they're legal, they're going to scrutinize that entire list and say these aren't valid signatures. I mean, if you can't catch the fraud and the deception in that there alone, so he needs those extra 200,000 signatures solely for when it is that the Democrats say, no, these aren't valid, you didn't get 1 million, we're not putting it on the ballot. He wants to have an abundance of signatures. So it's crazy. It is crazy. They will defend, they will protect their no voter ID scam as hard as they will protect anything, almost as much as they want to protect abortion, if not more so, because they recognize that without the cheating scam, they will not win elections because Democrat policies do not work. They send people into poverty, they send people into horrible situations, and yet the poor people and the migrants who get free stuff, that is their only voter base. That's why they always want all the mass immigration. Gavin Newsom is going to be running for president. There's no doubt. And Gavin Newsom does not want voter ID at all. But that guy is so cunning and so slimy, he will take anything that's brought out to him about voter ID and voter integrity. And what he does is he'll spin it and try to blame it on Trump. Here is Gavin Newsom warning you that if 2028 comes around, Trump's going to do everything he possibly can to make this a dirty election. Play.
Do I believe that Donald Trump will promote fair and free elections if Speaker Johnson remains Speaker in 2027? No, I do not. Response teams that I've just referenced, but what he tried to do with the DOJ and Prop 50, what he's trying to do as it relates to midterm redistricting, what he's doing consistently as it relates to voter suppression, as it relates to what he did on the day of the election here in Southern California and sent out these BORTAC teams, these Border Patrol teams up there. And you know this intimately up there near Dodger Stadium. These are the guys dressed up and cosplaying with the big Black Hawk helicopters and the tactical gears to suppress voter turnout. The fact that he's trying to vandalize vote by mail. I don't for a second trust him. And forgive me if you think that's hyperbolic or I'm going all Alex Jones on you. I remember something called January 6th.
There he goes. January 6th again, the excuse for everything. January 6th. He doesn't want to admit that he runs a state with an entire legislature that is totally into fraud. The fraud in California, like Trump said, I mean, I don't know if you had 50 Elon Musks leading 50 Doge agencies, if we would ever get to the bottom of all the fraud that happens in California. And, you know, don't think for 1 second that this can't be cleaned up, that this can't be fixed. It can be. When Ron DeSantis entered the state of Florida as our governor, one of the things he did immediately, and it was brilliant, he went in and cleaned up the elections because he knew that the fraudulent elections and what was happening in the state was going to work against him. He got in, when he won his first election, he got in by the hair on his chinny chin chin. So what he does is he goes and he gets rid of all the people who run the elections in different cities throughout Florida who had been accused of corruption. who had been accused of nefarious dealings, whether it was what they did with ballots, what they did with this, what they did with that. He got rid of them. And it worked so great that our election, our second election, was so clean and so awesome that he won this state for re-election by 20 points. And that was without having Trump endorse him. In fact, Trump was slamming on him, unfairly so, because it was looking like DeSantis might have been a contender against him for the presidency. And it just turned out to be that everybody wanted Trump and DeSantis didn't stand a chance. But here in Florida, people didn't care what Trump had to say about that because we knew he was so good. And when you clean up the voter rolls, when you clean up the people who are carrying out the nefarious actions within the entire election system, you get clean elections. And that's where we are. And let me tell you something. When I go to vote here in Florida, which I've done now a couple of times since I've been here, right? You have to show your ID. And I mean, they actually take it, they scan it. It's a process that literally takes an extra 2 to 3 minutes at most. You have to sign your name that it's really you. I mean, they take it seriously here. It's not an inconvenience, and it has nothing to do with racism, and it is something that the most simplest of people can do. So I want to give you some information about voter ID that you may not know, I think is so important because it really educates you. First of all, there are 14 states plus Washington, D.C. in the United States that do not require any ID whatsoever. Listen to these states: Hawaii, California, Illinois, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Vermont, and D.C. If that's not a liberal lineup, you tell me what is. Now, not by chance that there's some other things that tie to that. Let me give you those informationals. Top 7 in terms of highly taxed states. Number 1, Hawaii. Number 2, New York. Number 3, California. Number 4, Vermont. Number 5, Maine. Number 6, New Jersey. Number 7, Illinois. Why do you think you're so heavily taxed in those states? Because you've got to pay for all the illegal aliens who are living on the teat of that state. Think about that. Every single state in the top 7 with the highest taxes are going to be people who aren't going to require any identification when it comes to voting. The correlations are there. They are totally there. Now, when you go do a study of how many events are there where there have been cases that say, hey, there were illegal votes cast in that election. In the past 20 years, just in Pennsylvania alone, there have been 544 cases of freaking non-citizens voting in elections. All of them have them. Every single one of those states I just mentioned to you, they all have cases. But think about Pennsylvania for a second. And Pennsylvania is a state that sometimes goes a little to the right. Think of how bad it is for the rest of these states. They're all voting, and their votes count. Whether it's for voting on the mayor, whether it's voting on the governor, whether it's voting on the freaking president. And they want this to be kept. And in Pennsylvania, one of the things that came up, you know how many people they found that were non-citizens on the voter rolls? 100,000 just from a mistake that happened at the DMV. And so here's the incredible part of this. 13 of the 15 states in D.C. that I just read to you all allow illegal aliens to get licenses. You can walk into New York if you're an illegal alien and you can get a driver's license, which is amazing to me. So no, it is racist. It is derogatory towards people of color and minorities and the poor if you require them to go get an ID. They can't get IDs. They don't have the money to do it. They don't have the resources to do it. You're putting a burden on them so this way they don't vote. How can you make that argument when you're allowing illegal aliens to find the DMV? You're telling me the illegal alien that comes from the third world is smarter and more educated and capable of going to the Department of Motor Vehicles, standing on line, filling out forms, getting a voter registration on top of that because, made a mistake. They are capable of going and getting a driver's license, but the black guy or the black gal or the person who isn't making more than $25,000 a year, they don't have the resources, the mindset, and the wherewithal to get a voter ID. You're full of it. You're totally full of it. Because it would, if you made everybody get voter ID, it would reveal your scam. And that's the other reason why they're allowing illegal aliens to get licenses. In the state of New York, just in case you didn't know how this works, you go into the state of New York and now automatically through the DMV, you are automatically registered to vote. You have to opt out not to do that, which is crazy. It should be the other way around. You should go to the DMV and opt in to register to vote, but they make you automatically opt in. So what winds up happening is that the illegal alien goes in there and says, no, I'm an illegal alien. And he and the DMV worker has to say, oh, no, I'm an illegal alien. I shouldn't be on the voter roll. But, we made a mistake. 100,000 people deep just in Pennsylvania alone. And then, just so this way you know, when we tried to make a phone call to it, in fact, my daughter was doing the recording, there is a place called Vote Riders. I'll give you the phone number right now. You could try it yourself. Vote Riders, 844-338-8743. What do? It's across the country. And if you are somebody who is incapable because of a disability or lack of funds, if you need help to go get an ID of any kind, a voter ID, a general ID, a driver's license, any kind, they will pick you up and go take you. They will take you for free. And there's so many different free programs to where you can get your voter ID or general identification for free. So we have stripped out the need for you to pay for it. We've stripped out the need for you to be able to get there to get it. And yet the Democrats want this banned. They want it banned because it gives them the only advantage they have in any election, which is cheating. And you know and I know the only thing that's more damaging than having no voter ID are the mail-in ballots. And we just told you about how it was that Oregon the other day put in new laws that said, oh, yeah, listen, you could register online and you only need to have the last 4 digits of your social security number and a picture of your signature. I mean, that's riddled with fraud. Is it not? Explain to me how it's not. Somebody. Yeah, crickets. Total freaking crickets. And that's why. This is why Trump, Trump's going to the GOP and saying, hey, man, we've got to do a better job here. I need voter ID. I need to have a federal voter ID law. You guys need to get off your buttocks and start doing something. Thum, why aren't we doing anything? And, I did a video yesterday, a short video. If you're Team DML, you get every single one of these videos. You don't have to go searching for it. It's right there on your Team DML app. So I ask you one more time, please consider for $20. I don't make $1 off it. I'm retired. I use it for the expenses and to advertise what we're doing here and to pay my kids. So go to teamdml.com for $20 for the year. You could support us and you get the Team DML app, which basically it gives you all news all day, ad-free news, everything else you could possibly, anything you want. It's there, including every short video I do every single day with the ability of you to take it and share it so people could know what's going on. Yesterday, I explained how President Trump, I just showed you the video about, 20 minutes ago, stood in front of the GOP and urged them, please, voter ID. And you want to know what happens? Let me tell you what these GOPers are doing. These senators and even House members, they don't like Trump. They hate Trump. You maybe have like a little handful of people, maybe a few, 3, 4, 5, who generally like him and care about them. The rest of them, they're either using him for endorsements, they're using him for power, or they're using him because they don't want to be the subject of a bad Truth Social post. They don't want to be subjected like Massey is, like Thomas Massey right now in Kentucky. It was just announced yesterday that Trump is now supporting a retired Navy SEAL to go primary him. They don't want to be the victim of that. So what they do is they smile and they lie their way through. They run out the clock as if this is a football game. I said this to you yesterday as well. They run out the clock until he's off the field. And what I put in my video yesterday is what I'm going to repeat here to you today. If I were Trump, if I were on his staff, I'd say, Mr. President, I think I know what we can do to force these people to get the voter ID stuff passed. And if we can't because the Democrats are going to get in the way, and we need to have, clearly, we need to have the filibuster nuked. Because if we don't save our country now with things like the Save America Act for voting, if we don't do that now, it doesn't matter. We're going to lose everything. So the idea of, hey, if we get rid of the filibuster, well, then the Democrats will get rid of the filibuster when they have control and they have power, and we're going to complain about that. That rule set, that gentleman's sort of handshake, that was good in years past. We have a new Democrat Party now. It's all filled with fraudsters. Just look at Minnesota. You don't think that the Democrats are going to wind up doing the nuclear option on the filibuster when they get back in power? They would. Let's make it so they never get back in power. Get rid of the filibuster. Once you get rid of the filibuster, now all it requires is a majority vote. In fact, you could even have a 50-50 vote, and then Vance comes in and he has the deciding vote. We can pass things like voter ID. We can put in better things for national security. We can get things done and get them done before the November election. And this way, people will freaking say, yeah, I'm going to vote because now you are doing things that I voted for. Now, here's the thing. They're all going to yes him to death, but when nobody's looking, they're going to know him to death. And they're going to make excuses and pass everybody else off to blame. So what I would do, I say, President Trump, here's what you do. You got 50-plus guys that you got and gals from the Senate, GOP, that you got to put on camera. Take 5 at a time into the Oval Office, have the cameras running, make it a live feed, and you have every single one of them in front of you. I'll start with Cruz and Lindsey Graham, 2 people who I think want you gone, and yet they suck up to you. Senator Cruz, right now, we're on a live feed. What do we got? Oh, we got 4 million people watching right now. Do you support voter ID? You know he's going to say yes. Number 2, will you get rid of the filibuster in order to be able to get voter ID if you think it is so important for the legacy of this country and for the ability for us to get it back to being on the right track? Yes, sir, absolutely. I believe in that. Get every single one of them on camera. Anybody who says no, their career is over. They're going to be ripped out through voting. And what will wind up happening is people will never forget. People who own businesses will never forget. And so when that Cruz, and I'm using Senator Cruz as an example, when Cruz tries to go get himself a juicy job, getting $1 million for whatever it is that he's doing, people won't hire him because it'll be like, you're the one who caused America to decline. You're the one who sucked. So what is he going to do? He's going to have to go work for Democrats. He'll be ruined. Call him out on a live stream. Any person who rejects it or any person who turns around and says they're going to do it and then doesn't do it, we've got them. We've got them on camera. We got them dead to rights as far as I'm concerned. Their careers are absolutely over. I put that out yesterday. It went viral, and everybody said it was amazing, an amazing idea, and that's what Trump should do. It's easy. It costs no money, and it's right in his ballywick, to be quite honest. So I think that needs to happen, and if we do have that happen, we can keep America on the path that we are now. With that said, what path are we on? So the new conversation here is that Trump wants to buy Greenland. And there are people that are pushing back and saying, hey, can we worry more about domestic issues? I'm on board. I'm on board because not that we don't need Greenland, not that it wouldn't be good for us, and it would be good for us, and I'm going to go over that in a second. But sometimes perception is reality. And so when people are paying their credit card bills at the end of this month for all the Christmas things that they bought that they shouldn't, when they're paying their premiums for their increased premiums on their health care, when all the bills start coming in, that's when people start saying, I don't give a rat's ass about Venezuela. I don't give a rat's ass about Greenland. I only care about America. So the optics here, for the people who can't see the big picture, Trump has to start emphasizing a little bit more about what we're doing here at home and fixing some things and improving things. I think he's got a good plan laid out for the most part, but people are impatient, as I've said to you. So when you're looking at Greenland, I just want to give you 2 cents here on the whole Greenland thing. First of all, Venezuela comes with many different advantages, as I've explained and will be further explained towards the latter part of the week when I play my interview with the general. But keep in mind, there are multi-facets to this. And one of them is because Venezuela has more resources than any other country on Earth. Greenland also has a lot of the raw materials that we can really use. But it is also a national security strategic placement. All right. So what I want to do is I want to play the first video here. The first video here is of Trump explaining why we want Greenland. And he's doing this while he's on Air Force One. So it is a little bit noisy, but give it a listen to why the president says we need it.
We'll say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dogsman. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification
I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
Yeah, so listen, if Trump's talking like that, you can tell he's serious about it. And one of the reasons why we invaded, if you want to call it an invasion, Venezuela and grabbed Maduro is because Chinese and Russian and Iranian forces were starting to create what General Flynn called a beachfront presence right outside our door in Venezuela. So he sees what China is trying to do and what Russia's trying to do, and he's trying to get ahead of it. And he's trying not to scare you too much, but he knows that Russia and China are trying to move aggressively throughout the world to take over everything they possibly can to see the demise of the United States of America. China and Russia and Iran look forward and they see a very weak United States. That's what they're planning for. Trump knows this. He wants to get ahead of it. All right. Now, keep in mind, he's doing it so brilliantly, especially in Venezuela. It was announced that Venezuela is going to be giving over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the United States, which the United States will sell on its behalf, should be about $3 to $4 billion based on market value. And that money is going to be given back to Venezuela, and America is going to take their cut. So not only is Trump controlling that government without actually controlling it, but he's going to help enrich it. And at the same time, it's not going to cost us a dime. It's going to be a moneymaker for us. This is why you want a strategic businessman in place. So when you see all the advantages of Venezuela, we've talked about them today. We're going to be deporting illegal aliens. We're going to be stopping the ships that are going to China and Iran and to Russia with all the Venezuelan oil. I mean, you can nail out so many different advantages, and it's not going to cost us a dime. It's going to be a moneymaker. He is going to take that same sort of philosophy, and he's going to apply it to Greenland. And it will make us safer and better on every freaking level. So I don't have a problem with the whole Greenland thing, not at all. Now, the Democrats are trying to falsely position this as we're going to invade and use military force to take over Greenland. Stephen Miller addresses this in what I guess you would call a politely contentious interview with CNN. Here's a minute of Stephen Miller explaining this is no invasion.
The formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take
gonna,
it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland. So
one last question,
doesn't
Stephen.
make any sense.
Look, I'm going to end the show on this because there was a breaking news as we started the program, and I'm saving it here for the end with regard to Russia and seizing a tanker. President Trump, let's all remember this. President Trump went through more sacrifice and endured more weaponization against him from a lawfare standpoint than any person ever in the United States of America. They tried to take away his business. They tried to take away his money. They tried to ruin his family. They tried to destroy his reputation. They tried to take his life. If you don't think President Trump is going to get them back by means of making America great again, then you don't understand President Trump. The greatest way that you can get back these Democrats and these scumbags is by upending everything that they use and need in order to keep America from getting to a level of greatness. That is the best. You don't have to punch them in the face. That sting will only last for a couple of minutes, right? I remember when I was a kid. Think about it from a kid's perspective. When I was a kid and I got in trouble, there was always two options. My dad was going to smack my ass, or I was going to be punished for a month. I would rather take the smack on the ass. Yeah, it hurt, but the sting went away after about 25 minutes. Sitting in my room for 30 days, that was torture. So Trump wants these Democrats to sit in the country for the next 10, 15, 20 years under conservative control, maybe for the rest of America's life. How amazing would that be? He's doing everything he needs to do in his power, both domestically and internationally, to make the plan of Make America Great Again, America First, take shape. It's not something that can be done in a day. Expecting that this is going to be done in a day, a week, a month is crazy. Think about if you were building a building, a skyscraper of 100 feet, 100 stories. It's going to be the biggest skyscraper in the city. You think that gets done in a year? No, it gets done in a couple years. And when it's done, it's the greatest point of reference for the city. It's the most beautiful thing to look at in the city. It is the most valuable thing to look at in the city. And everybody says, wow, a little painful getting there, a lot of traffic, a lot of noise, but look at that thing. It's a thing of pride. That's what Trump is doing for America. And he has to do it internationally and domestically in order to be able for it to work. Trust in Trump that he's doing the right thing. It's not always going to sound great. It's not always going to look great. But at the end of the day, he's always going to win for us. With that said, here is what that breaking news was. U.S. forces seize sanctioned Russia-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic. U.S. forces on Wednesday seized the Russian-flagged Marinera oil tanker in the North Atlantic Sea. And that is based on the fact that sanctions were put in place. Then they tried to get around the sanctions. No, it's not going to start World War III. What it's going to do is it's going to send a very clear message to China and to Russia and to Iran and to everybody else around the world. Hey, listen, I've been in now office for a year, been getting a lot of things lined up. If you think this was going to be easy peasy, you got 3 more years of this. You better get yourself in line. Get yourself in line. Let's all be friends. Let's do deals together, or else I'm going to take you down. It's that simple. It's that simple. That's it for me. I ask you please to hit the share button. Don't not hit the share button. If you hit the share button, more people care. I'm trying hard for you. Don't forget teamdml.com. I'd love to see some new members come in today. Would be much appreciated. And either way, I appreciate you sticking with me here for the hour. Hope you enjoyed the show. Leave us a comment. I read them all. Until the next time, May God bless you, your family, President Trump, and these United States. God willing, we'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern.
This Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML. Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML. Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML. Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise,